representation in media, for me at least, means that LGBT persons are represented in media and communicated well in media, that stereotypes are not portrayed, but rather the diversity of the LGBT communities is shown in diverse mediums.
When publishing, that's always a tricky one with publishing, because on the one hand, we don't want to be too politically correct in that it all sounds fake and that you've got one character, kind of one representative for whatever category, so especially with adult fiction. But with children's fiction, there's also the responsibility as a publisher towards children who are obviously looking to various parts of the media, among which books, and in our case books in Maltese, for their understanding of the realities in the outside world. So there we do feel a bit of a responsibility to make sure representation is as responsible as we think we can do it. So whether it's including children from different ethnicities in books, sometimes it's including children with special needs, again in terms of inclusiveness, inclusion, if we're talking of games, of playing and everyday children's life. In this case, this picture book was obviously about love in all its forms, and of course together with the authors we thought that representation here would be very important in showing an alternative family structure to the ones that you usually find in practically all of Maltese children's fiction.
Jiena meta konna bdejna Xarabank aħna konna ħadna d-deċiżjoni illi ma nġibux in-nies LGBTIQ jitkellmu fuq il-gay issues ta' dak iż-żmien, nitkellmu għal 20 sen ilu. Imma nġibuhom jitkellmu fuq issues li mhux bil-forsa għandhom x'jaqsmu ma' huma gay. Ma għamilniex programm dwar il-gays, dwar l-LGBTIQ, etc. Għamilna programm dwar il-familja, dwar iż-żwieġ, dwar it-tiġijiet, u wieħed mit-tiġijiet kien dan. Dik kienet dejjem l-idea illi indaħlu il-kunċett illi din hija normali. Dak huwa differenti. Għax inkella jekk inti tieqaf fuq l-idea li daw bil-produ diskutu das-suġġett, jiġu bissal das-suġġett, jekk iż-żewġu mela nagħmlu lixu. Għanna diskutajna nimħabba ta' bejnietom, setat kienet imħabba kif kienem ta' raġel u mara, ta' żewġ personalitajiet, ta' tfal u l-ġenituri. Di kienet waħda mill-imħabbiet.
From the bit of time that I watch movies, if there's an LGBTIQ character, I try to identify with him and learn from him, because the character can really teach you.
When I was younger and trying to explore my gender identity and my sexual orientation, I looked to media to kind of give me the information. But now not so much. One, because I've come to realize that the representation of LGBT persons is kind of stagnant, that it's more or less the same kind of characters, the same kind of personalities that are being portrayed, and it's kind of not representing well the diversity of the LGBT community. I think it depends where, because for example in countries where being LGBT is basically a death sentence, there is no LGBT representation. In other countries, like for example the US and Europe, as I mentioned before, there is a mix. You have either characters that are really representing the diversity of the LGBT community, or you have the stereotypes, where even, for example, Disney used certain stereotypes associated with being lesbian or gay as an element of the villain, for example. So it has evolved from then, that being gay isn't or not being masculine. The example of men specifically is something bad. It's changed from that. It is a bit of a problem that when it comes to news stories, they tend to either use their own pronouns or the way it's worded, especially when it comes to stories related to trans persons, they tend to word things a bit odd, or that it kind of misgenders the person, or it gives the wrong idea. I don't know if maybe it's a translation issue, because it happens even when the difference between articles written in English and articles written on Maltese, or it's just general ignorance on the journalist's part. With regards to, like, for example, television shows, I don't think there aren't. Maybe there's one show that maybe has shown a LGBT character, but to my knowledge, at least, there are no trans characters on Maltese shows.
For me, it definitely helped me to realize that I was gay and that gay actually exists. Because especially like when I was 12, 13 and all my friends are speaking about boys, and I'm like, okay, this is not, I do not feel like this, like, am I weird? Like, and then actually seeing it in a film, seeing a girl like another girl, it's like, oh, okay, this is actually something that exists. I'm not just some random experiment or whatever. So it definitely helped me realize who I was and move to accept myself, because it made me realize that it wasn't just me who goes through this, but many other people do.
As Chiara said, it helped me kind of come out and try and find my place, but at the same time it limited me, because at least when I came out, the kind of representation of lesbian women was either femme or butch. And now I don't fit in either, but in the beginning I tried to fit under the label, and when you're young and coming out, it's a whole new experience, it's a big change. So trying to find my place to fit in and knowing what the media was representing, it did restrict me a bit. As in, I felt a bit kind of lost trying to fit in a label that wasn't me. So in a sense, things have improved. The media has changed from when I came out. So for a person now, it could be a different experience than I had, but it did impact me.
And I think something else also, for the films that have very stereotypical gays and their whole storyline is focused on the fact that they are gay, it sort of makes you forget that there's the intersectionality of a person. So for me, at times it made me feel like, okay, so I'm gay and that is only me, that is the only thing that I am. Like, it took me a bit of a while to realize, okay, that is not a label that I want to just go by. Like, there are other things that I can be described as.
Both negatively and positively. Negatively, for example, the first movie I watched it was Lost, and like negatively because I thought it was like at the end she killed her, and I thought it was like kind of the only solution. So that's negative. And positively because in the last few years there are positive characters to which I can relate as a black woman and queer person. So that was good because it gives me kind of hope.
I was really, really young. I think I was about 10. My mom listens to a lot of 80s songs, and there was the song from Small Town Boy by Bronski Beat. And I remember I used to watch the music video, and I used to say, but why are they assaulting him? What's so wrong about this man loving another man? And kind of I used to feel quite sad about the whole situation because it made me feel like I can't express myself, like when I grew a bit older.
The first time it was by accident, and it was a war on TV, and it was really late night, so I was just like, and I remember which cannot seem, but we can discuss it. And I was really like surprised, interesting.
Mine was definitely Willa and Grace. It's actually a funny story. Jack mentioned something about straight people, and I turned to my mother and I told her, like very innocently, I asked her, "Are we straight?" And I don't remember her answer, but I'm quite sure that she said yes. Surprise.
For me, I think I would go back again to Emily Fields, because it was the character that I focused most on and kept following specifically because she was gay. And then after her, a bit Santana from Glee, because they were similar, pretty much at the same time when I was coming out and exploring myself. Seeing their struggle, it was in line with this, at the same time that I was going through it. So they helped me get through realizing who I am.
Mine is currently, because it changes constantly, Cosima from Orphan Black, because she's very intelligent, she's really strong emotionally and physically. She's not afraid to love who she loves, but she also, one of my favorite lines from the entire show is my sexuality isn't the most interesting thing about me, and I think that line really hit close to home for me.
Personally, I don't see any issue with it, in the sense that when you're acting, you are pretending to be somebody you're not. So I don't see any particular difference. At times, though, I do like the authenticity of it, most specifically with trans actors. For example, in Orange is the New Black, I think you can see they will be able to portray the character more, but to be quite honest, it doesn't really make that much of a difference to me personally.
For me, it's the same, but I feel that certain roles, especially for trans people, there's such an emotional attachment to it in comparison to when it comes to lesbian or gay, that there are trans actors overlooking trans actors immediately, kind of shooting the community in the foot, because rather than giving, okay, maybe they have test views or just auditions with trans actors and they realize, okay, they're not that good, let's go for a straight actor. Okay, that makes sense, because after all you want the best actors to work in a production. But if it's simply, oh, they're just going for a straight cisgendered actor immediately, rather than giving a chance and seeing what's out there. It's also saying to the people, as a general public at large, that they're not actually that visible. We're just making this character up. We just brought this actor from nowhere to play a trans character because they're not actually that visible. We need someone to actually kind of show it. We may not have gone through the same experiences. You mentioned Orange is the New Black. Laverne Cox, her performance as Sophia is okay, it's acting, but you can feel her emotion, you can feel how much thought and how much has gone into her character, because she has lived through some of those experiences.
And I think in behind the scenes they had said like she would suggest changes to the script based on her experience to make it more authentic.
Yes, very aware, especially bisexual erasure and Aura's depicting the bisexual character as very sexually adventurous, or as the villain trying to break up relationships because they sleep with that person, they sleep with another person. The problem with stereotypes is that if they're overused, people think, okay, that's how that bisexual people are, or that's how gay men are, when in reality it's very broad, there's a lot of diversity. Okay, sometimes you need stereotypes, but at the same time, it kind of really impacts the community, because then if people go up to them and say, you don't look gay, it's like, you're not flamboyant, like, or you don't look trans, or trans is just women dressing up as men, or vice versa, which is really not the case, but because of stereotypes and what they've seen on television, that's what people will communicate. And it's not just the LGBT community, but a lot of other things, like, for example, that black people are naturally criminal, or Latinos are maids, or gardeners. Because the media continues to perpetuate these stereotypes, people will keep enforcing these stereotypes onto others. So it has a negative impact, and it also affects how people interact with others. Actually speak to LGBT people, not literally pull storylines and personalities and experiences out of somewhere. They should research, they should actually speak to people rather than just look up the internet, or, oh, I know a gay person, this person behaves that way, so what I'm going to write for this character is going to be based on that person. Interacting with persons in the LGBT community, especially trans, non-binary, people who are not LGB, at least, because from out of the community, LGB have had the most exposure. Trans characters are still making their way into media. By speaking to them, listening to their stories, their experiences, they can come up with characters that are much richer than just being a plot device, or just putting them there in the background, saying, hey, look at me.
Do your research and understand that there's diversity within the community, so not every lesbian is white, butch, or white femme. There's a whole spectrum of people within our own community. Understand that with such a representation that's so small, that is going to affect a lot of us, and that chances are if there's a gay character on your show, that gay people will flock to it and come watch it, but don't use that as to like queer kids. So be aware that if you portray a character badly, it's going to affect not only queer people but also the mentality of society.
I can't really say what's my idea, because every LGBTIQ person has different experiences, different backgrounds, so whatever the character they come up with will have their own kind of background, their own experiences, their own personality. So I can't really describe my idea. Obviously not the stereotypes.
Okay, not the stereotype, and just something that doesn't just focus on their sexuality only.
Because with a straight cisgendered person, you don't go, oh, they're cis, they're straight, and that's the only thing you remember about them. You remember either their relationship with a person, or their heroic act in this particular story, or their interaction with other people. You don't go, oh, he did that because he's straight, he did that because he's cis. I want the same thing for LGBT persons, that people will look at a character and say, wow, that's an amazing banker, not, oh, that's a gay banker.
I like to read the classics like Hamlet, Pride and Prejudice, Great Expectations. But for mainstream books and movies, I like to watch Bunked and Jessie. I know there are books like my book, Truly Willa, that are written completely about transgender children, but for average books, I haven't, no. Yes, I do think it's important, so adults can read it and know how transgender children feel like and what they go through. And also for children who may have a friend who is transgender, and for them to understand exactly how their friend feels like and what she or he goes through. and also for transgender children to feel that they're not alone while transition, because when I was transitioning, it was very important for me to feel like I'm not alone. Well, I wanted to just help people that surround transgender people and the transgender people themselves, as I said before, to make sure that they feel that they're not alone.
There's too many of them. Obviously, I mean, it can vary from a good storyline. In picture books, in children's books such as this, it's also the illustrations are very important, so trying to make it all come together. So we'll try not to have the story on one side and the illustrations as if they've been put together at the last minute, but something like as happened with this project, in fact, because the team, the author and illustrator worked together, so it came together as a kind of cohesive thing. So kind of in the case of a picture book, apart from obviously a good storyline, there has to be a good vibe going on between the text and the illustration, so that they kind of work together and relate a story together.
I think, well, the most important is how they're going to affect the other characters and the situations they're in. So, if I want to create drama, I won't include just any character who has nothing to say. I will introduce a character who has different opinions from the other characters that I've already introduced. So, yeah, I think it depends on where I want to go with the story, because otherwise the characters will take over. This has happened to me before, and they decide the story rather than me sometimes. I didn't. I mean, they're just characters, so you can ask God why he wanted to introduce gay people in the world. I think it's just normal characters for me.
Yes, unfortunately, you still find quite a few stereotypes in Maltese fiction, Maltese children's fiction. I don't want to generalize, obviously, but yes, I mean, be it from the more obvious things, you know, you still find even young authors writing about, you know, this family structure with dad going to work and mom being at home cooking and cleaning, and dad coming from work and, you know, putting his feet up and watching the TV. So it's not just in 60s and 70s fiction. You find it in contemporary manuscripts we receive now in 2017, and written by authors, you know, much younger than me. So I'm not talking about 70, 80-year-old author who maybe had, you know, his or her ideas set in a different era. Yeah, you do find stereotypes. As I mentioned earlier, the trick is always how to break away from a stereotype without making it too much of a statement book, that it sounds forced or fake. Yes, absolutely. This is proof. This book that we worked on is one such reason why we did it. There are quite a few, as you know, in English fiction, but when it comes to Maltese fiction, there is very little. There are some characters in a few, very few children's novels, but when it comes to this level of picture book, this is only the first that I know of book that was completely, you know, conceived and about LGBTIQ families. There was another picture book that featured family with two dads within a wider storyline, so it wasn't exclusively about that. But so yes, there is a need because there's very little, and otherwise I'm aware that children will grow up just seeing just one kind of family structure in fiction. Yes, the author and the illustrator, I'm aware, did consult. Much of the work was, in this case, was done by them in that regard. We did, there were a few specific issues in terms of nomenclature to use where we did consult with MGRM. But as I said, most of the research was done by the author and illustrator. But I know, yes, they did consult widely and go into a certain amount of detail and research.
Not as much as we should do. I admit it. Sometimes, you just might deal with the story at face value. Maybe we should seek a bit more. You reach out and maybe get a second opinion. But sometimes more than the fact that we don't care or we don't want to give, it's more a matter of time. But yes, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But they're often dictated by issues of time more than anything.
Iva, konna nikkonsultaw u kemm id-darba tinduna kemm għandek idea żbaljata għax inti dan huwa proċess li fih titgħallem biex ma tkunx l-ewwel darba l-ewwel ġurnata. Iva konna noqogħdu ħafna attenti u mhux bdi biss, jiġifieri naf pereżempju aħna għandna biċċa ngħidu iż-żgħażagħ tal-ġenn. Meta kienu kitbuli il-nies jieħdu ħsieb l-organizzazzjoni ħsieb is-saħħa mentali. U għallu nisba dik il-kelma tużaħħiex f'dal kuntest għax il-kelma tal-ġenn hija ġenn u tfiss. Jien waqaft nużala, ma kontx naf li għandna xi ħaġa li b'xi mod tista' tweġġa' u l-istess kien hemm momenti meta jew korreġewni jew saqsejt qabel mal-ħaġa minnha. Jien nemmen li din hija importanti ħafna. Jiena nħoss li programm ta' television bħal Xarabank għandu ma nistax ikun neutrali. Jien dejjem ħassejt il-bżonn li f'Malta niddefendu l-minoranzi. Jiena meta inħoss illi l-programm għandu dik is-saħħa enormi illi żgur irridu mhux naqbdu id-diskors tal-maġġoranza nirrepetu u noqogħdu nibgħatu ħadd in-nies biex taħġbulna, imma naqbdu id-diskors tal-minoranzi u nwasluhom lill-maġġoranza bil-permess tal-programm u issa anke permess tal-website.
I have written 2 plays with specifically gay characters. That was I-93 and Inan Hopintit Hop, and I'm writing another one now actually. In the case of Inan Hopintit Hop, there were problems from outside sources, specifically from a religious group who published a video on YouTube which got many views, and it told people basically that it was a sin just to watch the play.
Well, barriers when creating it, no, because we gave the authors a free hand to work on it. A nice thing about this project is that it was co-funded by the literacy agency, which was part of the Ministry of Education, so there was some kind of formal backing and support beyond the obvious, beyond the financial support. It was to me a statement of intent that not only were they okay with this book being published, but they even were okay with putting their name to it, which I think was quite a good step.
I've received very good reactions. I know mothers around the world who have transgender children, and their children really like my book. But my favourite reaction was last summer when there was Pride, and there was a woman that came up to me and she said that she was working with a family that had a transgender child, and it really helped them a lot. So that really touched my heart, because that's basically what I wanted the book to do.
Well, very good reactions. I've heard very good comments. People both from within the LGBTIQ community and outside it commented very positively. Unfortunately, I don't know, I might be a bit pessimistic here. I still think there is, within the wider Maltese community population, an amount of resistance. We notice it even from the vulgar bottom line, from sales. This book, were it not for the support of the literacy agency, would probably not have been possible, because sales, if you try and compare it to another picture book, similar age, similar style, similar level of reading, the sales are considerably less. Obviously in this case it was less of an issue because there was funding, but it does, make you think kind of, okay, all other things being equal, why is it selling less? And even there were occasions, I had occasion to be hand selling books at fairs, at school events, where you do sometimes, you see people who are very enthusiastic and very passionate and very excited about the idea, but you do see people who, pick up the book, maybe they like the illustration, they turn it around, they realize what it's around, and they discreetly put it back. So.
I have big problems, I think you can criticize, I can choose to criticize you, and I might have a different opinion to yours. But if you're spouting hatred, then I'm going to have a problem with it. Give me good arguments. We might choose to disagree, but I dislike any forms of homophobia. I deal with it normally, and look, I've been in the business for 20 years. I think one of the most important things is that we deal with LGBTIQ issues like a normal issue nowadays. Is it normal for everybody? No, but I think the way the gay lobby is represented in the media now is pretty acceptable. Of course, you're going to have people who are going to frown upon it. Of course, you're going to have ultra-conservatives who think we're ruining the country's values and all that. But I have absolutely no problem in saying that at least this news organization, as much as there are different views about gay issues, I mean, I would dread to think that I work for a homophobic institution.
Definitely massive progress has been done. I'm not sure about the word enough. For me, that means we can stop. But since, let's say in the last 10 years, it's been a complete 360-degree turn in Malta, I think.
There has been a lot of progress. I don't like it when, like you see on television sometimes when transgender people and LGBTIQ people are the point of a joke. I think that's really insensitive, and that can hurt a lot of people. But really, there'll be enough progress being made when it's normal for a transgender person to be in a book or a television program.